Hi, how's it going? I'm Noah Kane from Noah Kane Consulting, and today we're going to walk through e-commerce, SEO, and AI strategies for 2026. So the brutal truth about SEO right now is that there are three camps. There are some people that are just chasing AI SEO, AI search, others that are ignoring AI entirely, and there are even some people who are still using SEO tactics from 2020. We want to put you in a different camp. We want you to be a brand that's winning in 2026 that can go out and get 100K, 200K, even 300K per month just from organic revenue, but it's going to require a different approach. What I'm recommending right now is what I call my 80-20 SEO strategy, where we're implementing 80% of traditional SEO, but that's being updated for what works in 2026, not what works in 2020. And 20% that's focused more towards what we're seeing is working on AI search. Now, the 2020 SEO diehards, what they're doing is they're still rolling out a content strategy that doesn't really have a strategy, right? There's we just need more blog content. They're doing outdated link building strategies, and they're also completely ignoring their collection pages. Now, on the other side, the AI maximalists, they think ChatGPT is going to replace Google, tomorrow, or maybe in their eyes it already has, and they've kind of abandoned foundational SEO or traditional SEO entirely. The funny thing with that is actually, in some cases, some of the recommendations that they claim are for AI search wind up just being traditional SEO tactics anyways. That's not to say that AI search strategies is only traditional. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But the AI maximalists are kind of just focused on AI SEO. So the winning strategy is going to be one where you respect traditional SEO, but update it for 2026, and then also invest in AI SEO. Quick reality check though, AI search isn't a revenue engine quite yet for many brands. Here's a quick example from a client I work with. So this is a client where they get 20 to 30K monthly visitors from Google search, which results, depending on the month and seasonality throughout the year, 100 to 300K in monthly revenue, and that's directly from organic. On the flip side, they're getting 400 visitors a month from ChatGPT, and the best month they've had so far is $800 in revenue, right? So this is a decently established brand. They're doing well, right? But ChatGPT is just nowhere near the level that Google is, right? So it's nice they have some traction going, but it's just not going to replace Google anytime soon. One thing that nobody is talking about when it comes to AI search is the AI search funnel, right? So it's one thing if you're showing up in AI, but if you've looked at the AI search experience, you've probably noticed that the experience is not very helpful when it comes to driving clicks to your site. The experience is more research driven, and so even if you're showing up, even if you're getting linked, it doesn't necessarily mean you're getting clicked and leading to revenue, right? So here's what actually happens, right? People go to AI, they go to ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever tool they're going to use. They research things. ChatGPT might wind up recommending your brand, and then from there, a customer is going to go and directly enter your website into their browser. They're going to go to Google and type in your brand name. And those are the types of actions they're going to take. Or they're going to come back to that search later when they're actually ready to buy and start their search over again on Google, but they've already experienced your brand, been exposed to your brand on AI search on ChatGPT, right? So it's just not the same funnel that people experience when they're going to Google or other tools right now. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about what's changed in SEO and what we should expect heading from 2025 into 2026. So Google's SERP is chaotic right now, right? When you go and type in a search into Google, there's AI overviews sometimes, there's shopping feeds, both organic and paid shopping feeds. There's just increased competition across the board, more pieces of real estate to fight for, and more brands fighting for them. It's not just the 10 blue links anymore. Those days are long gone. Blog traffic is down. But counterintuitive to that, blog traffics matter more and more, right? So the old model is you just do a bunch of informational posts, you can pull in a bunch of traffic, that turns into revenue, and more content is more traffic is more visitors, right? That model is kind of out the door, right? But what does work with blogs right now is that your blog content will fuel you showing up in AI overviews, can drive your ChatGPT citations and mentions, help you build topical authority, have powerful internal links that you can send to your collection pages and money pages on your website. And also, it just supports your collection page rankings as well. Another thing that people are missing with blog content right now is comparison content. This is the type of stuff that both customers are loving and also the LLMs, right? So this is kind of like your brand versus that brand, one of your competitors. That type of content is working very well. You could also be comparing different aspects of your products, things like that. So in addition to informational content that can help with showing up in AI overviews and other LLM searches, you also want to have this comparison style content. Another big change is tracking. So tracking has become a total disaster. Keyword ranking tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush, while they still provide a ton of value and we use them every day when we're doing SEO for our clients, there was a recent change back in the, I believe around August, September of 2025. Google changed a parameter called N100 that made it really hard for Ahrefs and SEMrush to go get the first 100 results for a keyword. So this kind of decimated their ability to do proper tracking. Hopefully there'll be some fixes along the way soon, but it has impacted the amount of visibility we have across keywords that aren't on the first page, the first 2 pages of Google, which does make analyzing what's going on in the SERPs a little more difficult than it was even just 4, 5, 6 months ago. Google Analytics 4, while this has never been a perfect tool, even when it was still Universal Analytics, Google Analytics has been a complete mess and it's been getting worse and worse. I've seen it across just about every client account. There are some accounts I work on where 40, 50, 60% of the revenue that they're generating in Shopify is not making it over into Google Analytics. Obviously a major problem because we can't really understand attribution, meaning which channel is actually driving revenue, how are we performing month over month or year over year. That's gotten really, really hard this past year. Now there are other tools out there, Triple Whale, things like that, that some clients are using to help close that gap. But if you've used Shopify, you probably know it's tough to get channel attribution in Shopify. So typically we'd rely on Google Analytics to understand that. But attribution right now is just really, really hard. Google Search Console, while not perfect, has kind of been the best source of data lately. One aspect that is kind of frustrating with that is shopping clicks and AI traffic. That's not really pulled into that tool, right? So we have a picture of clicks. It's not the full picture, but it gives us the most accurate data. And more importantly, when we're looking for new keyword opportunities, it's another great place to go dig for data that we used to be able to do in Ahrefs with those tools, and now we have to kind of mix in a variety of tools. AI search obviously matters, but it only really works if you understand entities. So this is why everyone's talking about Reddit, getting your website into authoritative listicles, getting brand citations, brand mentions, all those things. That's why you hear these things. You need entities. And what that basically means is how often is your brand mentioned across the web? You just need activity everywhere because the AI tools, LLMs, they're searching to gain consensus across a bunch of different properties across the web, and you just need to be there. You need to be mentioned, and they need to understand who you are and what you do. So now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the 80% of the 80-20 strategy that you need for 2026. So here's what's working with traditional SEO. Your collection pages are your money pages right now, right? So you have your core collection pages that are going to be in your main navigation. You also have sub-collections or collection variants, which are going to be collections where you're hyper-targeting keyword variations that are relevant for your brand. Maybe you're ranking on page 2, 3, 4, 5, and you want to make a push on a keyword. Those collection pages that are not in your main navigation can crush it on that, but you need to have a awesome internal linking strategy to get that sorted out. You also need to be optimizing for secondary keywords, right? So when you optimize a collection page, you're going to have a primary target keyword, but you also want to mix in some secondary phrases that keyword, that collection page could also rank for. And then just a clean site architecture, right? Your navigation needs to be clean. The internal linking structure, as we mentioned, needs to be clean. And this needs to be easy for Google and the LLMs to make sense of your website. Another big thing that's really working for a lot of collection pages right now is adding some collection page copy to the page. This typically goes below the product grid, and it just provides a little extra edge compared to your competitors who are not doing that. Also provides extra context, and as you know, crawlers are looking for content to make, to sort things out, to understand things, gain more information on a page, right? And if you don't have any content, if you just have your products and the names of the products and your product grid on your collection page, that's helpful. But if you want to add some more value, adding a little collection page copy is a great way to go. All right, now, one big problem I'm seeing with many websites is on-page alignment. So what I mean by this is that you have multiple pages competing for the same keyword. This is oftentimes referred to as cannibalization, right? So you might have a product page and a collection page, and even your blog posts that are competing with each other. You might have blog posts that are showing up for commercial or buying intent keywords, and they're outranking your product and collection pages, right? When that happens, you're just not going to get the results you want, because someone's going to wind up clicking on a blog post when they really want to go shop already. Or your collection page might be more powerful from an authority perspective, so your product's blocking it out, and now neither of them are ranking, right? All this matters, and it's where a lot of websites are losing ground right now. They're just a complete mess, unorganized, and the alignment is way off. Same goes for that secondary keyword usage, right? You want as much keyword exposure as possible, right? So in your meta elements, your meta titles, things like that, your headings, you want to be able to mix in some secondary phrases where it makes sense, and that'll increase your keyword exposure. And the same goes with your internal links, right? You want the right internal link anchors from the right pages that are sending context and also, authoritative link juice from your backlinks across your website. And this is why when we, kick things off with the brand, right, part of our audit process is just making sure that we don't have that cannibalization. We have a clear picture of, all right, here's what the product should be ranking for. Here's what the collection should be ranking for. Here are the collection variants we want to put together. Here are the blog posts we want to delete. Here's the ones we want to keep. Here's the ones we want to rewrite. Here are new topics we want to create. We want to have a clear picture of all of that before we just start randomly doing things, right? So you need to make sure that is part of your strategy right now in 2026. Next item. As everybody knows, backlinks are super important, but right now I think people are getting backlinks very wrong. So our approach right now that we have found is working is what I call a product-led link building strategy that is mixed with branded links. So what I mean by product-led is we are doing what many people call like digital PR, right? Where we're doing outreach to journalists who are writing gift guides, seasonal roundups, top 10 product recommendations, those listicles from industry sites, those types of things, product reviews, all of that stuff. We're doing outreach to those places, and a lot of SEO agencies are not doing that right now. They're mostly relying on going in and getting link placements and guest posts, which those work, right? As you'll see right here with the branded links, right? We still are getting guest posts on relevant blogs, industry, niche relevant link placements on those types of sites. Those still matter, right? Where we can go and get your brand mentioned on those types of websites. But these product-led links where we're focusing on the awesome products our clients have and doing outreach based around that, or new product releases, seasonal products, right? Those types of things. We're doing that type of outreach and getting those placements in really awesome publications. We've had some recent wins. Got a client in Men's Journal. We got a client in Vogue the other day. What else have we done recently? The Guardian, right? So we're getting brands that are not, they're pretty, they're doing pretty well, right? But they're not huge brands. They're not, multi-billion-dollar brands. They're not even brands doing, 9 figures or anything like that. They're 7- and 8-figure brands that we're able to get in there in spots where a lot of times you have to pay to play, right? If you've seen those services where you're spending, $5,000 to get a placement in a product roundup or one of those types of articles, we're helping brands get into those things without having to pay those types of fees. Now let's shift gears over to blog content a bit, right? So blogs just have a new purpose. And we kind of touched on this earlier, right? And you need to think about blogs in a much wider context than we used to, right? It used to be just kind of like we just need to create content to create content. But now we have to be much more thoughtful, right? So we want to create blogs where we're creating internal link strategies, right? We're covering our topical authority, all of our topics so we have topical authority. We want to support our collection pages. We want to have abilities to feed AI, right, with stuff so they're mentioning our brand. And if AI is mentioning our brand or if we're showing up in AI overviews, that theoretically should feed our branded search and branded mentions and all those things. So all of this is working together now. And you just need to have that approach to how you're thinking about content, right? So you have your blogs, you have your collections, you have your keyword rankings, your AI mentions. All that works together to drive you more revenue. And we touched on comparison content earlier. I'm going to touch on it again real quick. The reason why this is working is it's a way to differentiate from just traditional informational content, right? So a lot of blog posts are often, top of funnel, right? Very surface level informational things that are just about the product areas or things people consider or think about when they're customers of a certain type of product or type of brand. But the comparison content pushes a little more middle, bottom of funnel, and that's going to help you convert people more, right? Because there are people who are asking questions around like, well, do I want this product from this brand or that product from this brand? Which one's best for me, right? All those things. And you're going to basically add context to your brand by having this content on your website that's going to get sourced by LLMs. It's going to be sourced by Google, AI overviews, all that stuff. And obviously, if that content ranks as well, there's going to be people who go in and type in your brand versus compared to this brand, one of your competitors, and they're going to go do that on Google, and hopefully your post shows up for that as well too. So while people are making buying decisions, this comparison content is going to crush it. So now they've gotten through the traditional SEO aspect, let's talk about the other 20%, right, which is the AI SEO side of it. So AI SEO is not your LLM.txt file, which I've seen people talk about. That's not really a thing to worry about. You've seen people talk about query fan out, where you're creating tons of content to hit all these different queries. While that concept, I think, is probably helpful, I'm seeing it be abused, where people are just kind of spamming content out there to meet these artificial goals around query fan out. So I would ignore that type of stuff. And then the fake analytics. There's these new startups that are launching these dashboards to track your brand mentions and visibility, all this stuff on the AI tools. The reality is, and if you just think about it, right, every person is typing in something different into ChatGPT, right? So it's way different than Google. When I want to go shop for a leather bag, right, I'm going to shop leather crossbody bags. When I want to shop for a new couch, I'm going to do leather couch, or couch that's good for kids, or whatever it is, right? Something that's like very, very specific, and most people, when they're ready to buy, are typing in a very specific term. And that's why when you go to Ahrefs or SEMrush and you do your keyword research, you'll see there's high volume on different phrases because people tend to search in a very similar way. Obviously, there'll be variations, but it's very similar, and it's trackable, and there's actually data to track. There's no tracking data on what people are typing in, and even if there was, it's so unique from person to person. People are not typing in 2, 3, 4 word phrases in the ChatGPT to do their shopping. They're having questions, they're having conversations. The way ChatGPT engages back with them is way different. So these tools are not very helpful when it comes to tracking and understanding what's happening for your brand. Now, what AI SEO is getting your brand mentioned everywhere, right? This is why Reddit matters, the listicles. If you can do podcasts, if you can get people to review your products on third-party sites, get citations, niche mentions with backlinks, and that would be more your brand mentions as opposed to keyword-rich stuff. This is what matters, right? You want your brand to show up in as many places as possible. Your social media strategy can also play into this too, and that's going to increase the likelihood that you're mentioned over other brands. There's also, a concept of having extractable data in your content, right? So if you can find a way to mix this stuff in where it makes sense, so whether it's tables, comparisons, FAQs, making sure your schema markup is correct, doing summaries in your content, those types of things are easy for AI to kind of extract and parse, and makes it more likely that they're going to include you when they're mentioning brands for people to consider in their buying journey. So to kind of tie this all together, right, you need to have entity dominance. You need to be everywhere, right? You need to be in the Google shopping feeds. You need to be in Google search. You need to be in the AI overviews. You want ChatGPT mentioning you, right? You need to be on social. You should be on podcasts if you can. You need to be in business directories. You need niche backlinks. You want to be in the product roundups, all those things, reviews, digital PR, all that stuff, right? You want to be everywhere to dominate in SEO. Now, the cool thing is that we're still very early in the AI search journey when it for brands, right? So AI shopping is on the way. Now, obviously, there are some shopping features that are showing up right now. If you go and mess around with ChatGPT, you'll find that sometimes it'll bring in your product feed to some degree. But the cool thing is ChatGPT or OpenAI announced a partnership with Shopify just a couple months back. So I expect at some point there'll be an easy way for you to integrate your product feed into ChatGPT, similar to how you send your product feed to Google Merchant Center right now. So just be patient with that. There's some people who are trying to figure out ways to spam your product feed into the LLMs right now. I would not worry about that quite yet, but it is on the way. So just be patient for all of that. So now let's talk about the big problem and why most brands, can't execute this without much help, right? So most brands are struggling with their attribution data, right? So when they're going into Search Console or Google Analytics 4 or the keyword tools, they just can't, make sense of it. I had a client the other day who thought that their traffic had fallen off a cliff because Ahrefs said so. When really what happened in Ahrefs is the keyword tracking, as we mentioned earlier, is having an issue. So it looked bad in Ahrefs, but if you went into their Google Search Console and their Google Analytics, the traffic was exploding, right? So it's really hard without the specific expertise with these tools and in this industry right now for many brands to make sense of what's going on. Cannibalization is a big issue. We mentioned this earlier, right? I've seen brands go out there and try to do this in-house where they are, they're like, all right, we need to make tons of collection pages. We need to make this type of content, do X, Y, and Z across the site, some of the things we've mentioned earlier, but they don't understand cannibalization, and so they wind up just hurting themselves, shooting themselves in the foot, and having all their pages, too many pages competing for the same keywords, and then that winds up hurting all their keywords, and they don't rank. They also don't know how to do product-led backlink building, right? They might be able to go out and find ways to buy links or whatever, or maybe they've paid for services before to help them go get links. They don't have a consistent strategy where they're getting quality links mixed with link placements and guest posts every month. They just don't have that built in-house, and in many cases, it's probably too expensive for them to have that built out. Some other reasons they struggle, they might do some blog posting, but they don't understand how to mix that in to where it works for both Google and AI search. They don't understand entities, and they maybe are working with agencies that are also stuck in 2020, right? So if your SEO agency right now is not talking about some of these things or looking into these issues or even communicating to you about attribution and the problems that are happening there, they're probably not the right fit. And the AI first providers, right? If you've decided to shift gears and really focus on AI, they don't really understand traditional SEO. If you don't understand traditional SEO, you're not going to really have the success in AI search that you want. And they also don't understand e-commerce, right? They're just kind of generalists when it comes to AI for right now. All right, so let's talk about putting the 80/20 SEO system into action, right? This is the stuff I'm using right now to help brands get to 100K, 200K, 300K per month in organic revenue. First things you need to do to get ready for 2026 and to have success is you got to assess your current position. I always recommend doing an action plan before you start taking action because you want to have a clear picture on what the data is telling you and build on an actual strategy. That means identifying quick wins, fixing cannibalization, understanding what collection pages you want to build out, all those things, right? You need to be building out your brand entities, your backlinks, both the product-led ones we talked about, but also your brand mentions, your Reddit links, all those things. All that needs to be in action, right? So you need the full system working for you so you get the full effect and you wind up showing up everywhere. That's really the main goal across the board. So if you're ready to dominate 2026, I only take on a small number of clients per quarter to make sure we get excellent results for our clients. So hit me up at noah@workwithnoah.com or visit workwithnoah.com to schedule a call today, and I look forward to helping you dominate SEO in 2026.